check out the
Well,
car and
that's nice of you. I'm like I say, I'm doing what I do, and I don't want to air all that laundry on the podcast for the public of how indecisive I am. You would think for as many cars as I bought and I've owned, it would get easier to just buy the next one. It's not. It's never easy for me.
So hold
yeah.
on. By the way, I've already started recording. So just so that I'm clear, what you did in cars this week is you're showing a clown car. Is that what I'm seeing here, Blair?
Yes, and I just bought one too. So
Okay, good. Oh, by the way, this would be a good time to tell you that we're actually officially sponsored by Hair Club for Men. Welcome to Full Throttle Talk, the podcast where horsepower meets conversation. From supercars to classic legends, high revving tech to motorsport mayhem, we cover it all. Straight from the driver's seat, whether you're a gearhead or racer or just love the thrill of the open road, you're in the right place. Buckle up, hit the gas, and let's go full throttle into today's episode.
You know, my dad's pretty bald. I thought by this point I was going to be bald too, but somehow, I managed to miss that. I actually was looking forward to it. I normally keep my hair really short, and but my wife likes it a little bit longer. So I thought, every once in a while I'll let it grow back out. But then what happens is after I get sick of my hair, like, with helmet hair, I should say, I go back to nice short, hair. So anyways,
I'm at this stage in
don't
my life. I'm just happy to keep with what I have. That's basically my mission.
yeah.
don't make me go put my hat on, Tim. I'll do it.
No. Well, I mean, as far as pulling off being a handsome man and bald, I think you got it nailed. So you're good. Well, so listen, this is Full Throttle Talk. We've got a wonderful podcast for you guys prepared today. Obviously, we're all in a great mood because we record our podcast. Maybe I shouldn't tell you guys this, but we record it on Friday. So we're all, I think, coming off having very busy weeks. And so the topic we're talking about today on Full Throttle Talk are going to be as follows. Obviously, what did you do in cars this week? And we're already seeing that Blair bought himself a clown car. We're going to talk about a little bit of automotive news. And then we're going to talk about something that actually I've been getting a lot of questions. Some of you guys are messaging us on Instagram at Full Throttle Talk about selling your car. We talk a lot about buying cars. So we're going to go through the different scenarios and what might make most sense for you. And I think from personal experience, having sold droves of cars, I haven't sold anything the last 7 years, but prior to that, I have personally owned over 100 cars. And I'm going to take you through my own experiences with consigning, whether you just sell it outright or whatever. And then we're going to talk about this or that. And this is honor of Shanu Mapleton. And we're talking about this is going to be the Lotus edition of this or that. So we're going to talk about
Nice.
Lotus. You ready? You ready?
Yeah, I wore the right shirt then.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So you're going to be able to shine with your Lotus expertise, and then we're going to propose two different Lotuses that we are considering. And by the way, did you guys see that Lotus on Bring a Trailer with 8,000 miles, that red one? Did you
No.
see that? Yeah, there's.
Which Lotus?
Uh-oh, now we got Blair's attention. We got to get back on track. I'll distract you later. No, there's a gorgeous red Elise that just popped up on Bring a Trailer this morning with only 8,000 miles. And then there's another one, a yellow one, and then an Exige. And so there's a lot of really cool Lotuses and Exiges that are coming up, and none of these cars have any miles. Not that I'm not really sure I'd care too much on a Lotus about miles, considering the heart and soul of those cars are Toyotas. But let's start out by talking about what did you guys do in cars this week? Shanu Mapleton, you get to go first.
Nice. Well, our 996RR, which is this road rally spec that we've been building. You guys know the 996 is kind of that redheaded stepchild in the Porsche community. And we bought one last year and we've been upfitting it. And so I took the car for the first longer trip up to Los Angeles. And, we're building this car for rough canyon roads to be compliant and work where, typically low stiff cars just kind of don't excel. And so driving around in, downtown LA, where the roads are horrible, the car just steamrolled all those bumps. So pretty excited about how the car performed. And we still got more work to do. The interior's a wreck. We got to fix that. But technically, mechanically right now, the car's, doing the things that we hoped it would do.
Well, so what's your mission with this? Because this is going to be a special series or start of a special series for 996s, right? That's what you're creating.
Yeah, we're trying to just let the collective driving community know that we work on drivers' cars. And Porsche in particular is kind of, though it's not new to me personally, for my business, we haven't spent much time servicing Porsche until last year. So since then, we've done G-body cars, we've done 964s. We actually have one in there we're doing a full engine rebuild on, suspension, a whole bunch of things. We've done a few 996s. So we bought this car to just kind of showcase our technical abilities beyond just doing basic service and alignments and things, but as a company that actually comprehensively tunes, cars. And so we chose a 996 just because it's got that kind of redheaded stepchild reputation. And our thought was, hey man, can't we show folks how fundamentally good this car is? And for the money, it's the best bang for the buck if you're looking for a 911.
There's no doubt. Well, I mean, arguably the Boxster from the same generation too, but still, yeah, I agree completely.
But if you want a 911, right? I mean, that right. Again, the 911 is the iconic Porsche. So it's the cheapest way to get into the family and have a legitimately, good 911 experience.
I agree. And I had a 996 GT3 and it was actually a brilliant 911 to drive. Yeah. I mean, have you driven one of those before?
I have. And so our goal is to make our car handle nearly as well, but be significantly more compliant. Right. The goal is to make it better than a C2, probably not quite as well as the GT3, but way more compliant and frankly, more comfortable to drive through the canyons.
What does RR stand for, Shanu?
Road rally. Okay. we had to come up with our own little nomenclature, right? And so it's kind of like a tarmac rally car. So a car with a little bit additional ground clearance, more compliance in the suspension. And so we kind of came up with, 996 RR.
So before you take on a project like this, you're following your gut, your intuition, or do you do any sort of market research to find out you just doing what you're interested in primarily?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my problems is I tend to chase the things that I love to, and I do believe that a lot of people love driving. And when you're faced with rough canyons, and what are you going to do? You just can't, rattle every filling out of your head because you think that's the way cars should be. When in fact, no, we can create a car that's compliant, that'll steamroll through those potholes and those bumps and give you a great driving experience with all the grip you're looking for. You can go through the canyons quickly. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just from my experience, that's generally all the stuff that I've done over the years is when I drive a car and find the things that I don't like, then I try to fix those issues.
That's almost always the best products are made around the founder or the whole vision of one person, and they're ultimately making something for themselves and sort of like, you put blinders on and ignore what other people's opinions are. And when you do it, like, as soon as you start asking for other people's opinions and then your original vision is diluted, then all of a sudden you create a crap product. That's true for podcasts too, by the way.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because there's things we've done on this car now that are very controversial, and I'm sure I'm going to piss off a few, more than one, Porsche guy. I mean, the car's more of an outlaw. It's not so much of a resto mod. I mean, you wrote that really good article. I liked comparing the difference between the two, and I'm more of the outlaw guy than I am the resto mod guy. I mean, you can see the image behind me. The wheels are different spoke count. That's a pretty unconventional thing to do. We first did that on the track and we sprayed bed liner on the front and rear fascias and the rocker molding, which I know when people see, they're like, what in the hell is this guy thinking about? Well, if you drive in the canyons, the front and your sills get all hammered, chipped and scratched and all sorts of stuff. You're following your friends driving through the canyons. They're throwing up rocks at you with their sticky tires. Well, here's a nice way to address that, and so anyways.
I like to think of all the ways I can piss people off on the podcast. So, I'll go ahead and say right now that I am not the biggest 911 Safari fan. So this makes a little bit more sense to me, frankly, to have something in between, a little more drivable, more compliant, more usable.
Yeah, this one's road based.
Yeah, don't call my K-Van a clown car, Tim, but Safari 911's a little bit clown car-ish. You take just a phenomenal car and then you jack it up and you put big tires on it. That's not. I think this has some merit, conceptually.
Well, I think most of us drive on the road, and that's the whole concept here. Whereas the Safaris are really built for off-road. They put a square setup on the car. The tires are the same front and rear. Well, that shit isn't going to work on the street. Okay, I don't care what anybody has to say. It works fine in the dirt where you're grip limited, but on the street, no. Tire size is very much dictated by weight distribution. So on a rear biased car, well, you need bigger tires in the rear. It's pretty simple.
I think the different wheel designs, because they're the same design, just slightly, I think that looks pretty cool. You could actually be the start of something as far as the design trend.
Yeah, we've done that, but I mean, look, Manti Racing, if you get a Manti Racing kit, right, for your GT3 RS, it has the aero discs in the rear, which is fundamentally different, right? And so I kind of feel like they've kind of put it out there. We did it on the Draken, and there's a different spoke count. We're using HRE wheels on that car, and the spoke count is different front to rear, but it's slight enough that most people don't catch it. But yeah.
There we go. All right. Yeah. So Blair, hopefully I didn't hurt your feelings making fun of your amazing van.
You can't hurt my feelings. But
Blair, how many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Nice, but perfect size then.
Yeah, exactly. As long as he stays home. So what are we looking at for the people that are not playing on video?
So those who can see my camera, my brother bought this Mitsubishi Bravo. It's a 1993 3-cylinder, revs to 9,000 RPMs. I want you to count on one hand. How many cars can say that? GT3 comes to mind. Gordon Murray cars come to mind. LFAs come to mind. I think so. Anyways, what wild little car, and he test drove it a few weeks ago, and I went with him, and I said, well, one of us has got to buy this car. It's either me or it's you. But since you were kind of first onto this thing, I'll give you first ride at this. So he did buy it. And, nice. But he needed to trade me cars the other day on Saturday. And he said, well, do you want my Miata or my K-Van, my Bravo? And I said, no, I want the Bravo. Let's trade for that. So I had it all day Saturday and part of Sunday, and had a total blast with this thing. With it is so tiny, right-hand drive. And so long story short, I decided park next to my M3 in the driveway. I'm like, that is just too awesome. I was sad when I gave it back to him. So I have one currently being picked up right now, just outside of New York City, and being shipped to Salt Lake. So I bought one too. I bought a year later. It's the 1994 Bravo, but it's the Turbo GT.
Better. That one's much better. That one's the one to have. That's the collector edition, right?
The Turbo.
Oh, of course. And that one goes to 9,100 RPMs, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope so. But it is, it's a 4-cylinder, not a 3-cylinder. I'm taking a total flyer on this car. The seller was a great guy, FaceTimed a couple of times. And so, yeah, I live in a master plan community where a lot of families have golf carts. I'm like, I don't really want a golf cart. This is my golf cart to cruise around the community.
Okay, so let's ask some questions. So because otherwise, Shanu and I are going to compete with putting up more nerdy cars than what you just bought. Okay. Okay. And I don't have any pictures ready to go, so he's going to.
You see the one I put behind me? It's actually so Blair, is that one of the K cars? Is it it a K car class?
It is a K car. Yeah.
So how long is it? How long is it?
Not long. I think it's when I looked it up around 10 feet, but that seems kind of long. It does not feel that way.
I wonder dimensionally how that does compare to like an onward 4-seater golf cart, right? I wonder if that you could actually take those things on golf cart paths legally in most planned communities. Because if you could, and you EV'd it, that thing would be probably a bigger seller than you think. Golf carts are absolute pieces of junk, and we have a really nice one,
Well, the cool thing about these vans too is if you get the right one, they've got what's called the super aero roof, and the whole roof electronically retracts. So you've got this they call it stargazing mode. You can flip the front seats backwards and retract the roof and look up, through the open roof at the stars. And do I think I'm going to be doing that? No.
Imagine how many Japanese babies have been made that way.
I was going to say, Blair, you're about to have some fun with your wife, I think.
No comment.
My wife said, she's like, do you really need this thing? I said, no. And the funny thing is, she drove it on Sunday. I made her drive it. We ran an errand. I made her drive it. She can drive a manual. She does great. But
Shanu, why'd you future tense that instead of ball to have fun? I mean, bro's looking way relaxed. Sorry, Blair.
Pretty good this week.
My wife said, "Yeah, I just don't
Oh,
plan
you know
on me
what?
getting in that thing." So
This is
I have nothing to look forward to in that
Blair
regard.
is taking this segment. What did you do in cars this week to a new level?
Oh man, I love it. I love it.
Okay, so as far as
Titillating.
I'll just show this. Do you guys know about this car? This is that I'm showing them a
Yes.
Topolino?
Yes,
Yeah, isn't that
Topolino.
awesome?
It's the new one. Yeah,
It is.
EV.
So
Yeah.
thank you. I'm glad you guys know about it. All right, so I'm showing, if you guys are listening at home, on the home version, on the audio only version, I'm showing a Fiat Topolino. And these Fiat Topolinos, you guys might know more about them than I do, but dimensionally, it's the size of a Guerrilla golf cart, which we have. And I'm embarrassed to say Guerrilla golf carts are started around 40 grand for a four-seater. It's insane.
Wow.
Exactly. And so this thing is dimensionally the same. This is an EV, as you guys said. If you guys can't see this because you're listening, Google Fiat Topolino because it's new. They're going to be selling them all over the United States at Fiat dealers. When Trump made it so that, what are those little cars called? The segment you said it a second ago.
K car, KEI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when those became legal, which was earlier this year, just sold in the United States, I think we're going to see an onslaught of these cool little dudes. And dimensionally, same size as a golf cart. Safety wise, you wouldn't think safety looking at that thing, but it's going to be built to car standards. So I think the golf cart industry is about to have a rude awakening. Look, it's about time.
Tim, look at that rope to get in. That's like getting on an amusement park ride.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
I know, but does your golf cart have a rope? Mine doesn't.
No, my golf cart's about to have 2 sliding doors, one on each side.
So here, just
that rope isn't going to help you when you get T-boned, right?
Just to show you, I appreciate van life. That's our Vanagon. That's our 1990 Vanagon that I've hot rodded over the years to be like a B32 Porsche van. Did you guys know that Porsche made a van?
I do know that. And look at the Fuchs wheels on that. Nice.
Yep. The Fuchs wheels, and it's got an Audi 1.8 turbo with APR aftermarket stuff. It's 250 horsepower. I convert to a manual transmission.
Nice.
I mean, it's the stupidest car I've ever built, but I can't sell it.
Well, when you do sell it, please call me.
Everybody says that, but then I tell you how much I have in it. Then you're going like, good luck.
Say, okay, don't call me because I'm barely paying over 10 grand for my van. But honestly, it's a reminder, as much as I love the hardcore sports cars, when you drive these things, you can't help but smile, laugh.
Totally.
I've owned GT4s. I've owned, a bunch of 911s, this Audi R8, some cool stuff. My boys, my twins, they're more stoked about this thing than they are any car I've ever bought. I'm not kidding. They're asking about it because they've ridden in my brother's, and it just, there's something whimsical about this. And then when you drive it, though, it's actually like that little motor growls up to 9,000 RPMs, and it's not junk to drive. The shifter's good. You can rev match in this thing. It's actually very fun. So I'm excited.
Is this where you tell us you're sticking it on Bring a Trailer? I mean, it sounds like you're doing an ad here to sell this thing, and I didn't.
I'm already sold. So this one might be no point to ever sell this. We're going to kick it around for a while.
Well,
but you're going to have a lot of great memories with that. That's going to be a lot of fun for sure.
But think how cool it is that you're this motivated by a silly little van, right? And how much fun it is. That just goes to show, Blair, honestly, how much of a true car enthusiast you are and how you're not a brand snob. Truthfully, that's what it tells me.
Absolutely.
This is anti-snobbery. The funny thing is, when I drove this car, the amount of attention this gets is almost like, I don't get too uncomfortable with attention. I want cars to be fun for myself, for other people. But this one, every grandma, every mom driving a van, the kids in the back, they're all pointing and laughing. And I'm not joking. All like 8 out of 10 cars go by and are laughing and pointing and turning their necks. I almost got a little uncomfortable with this, but comes with the territory.
You have massive amount of confidence if you can take old ladies laughing and pointing at you in traffic. I honor you. So what did I do in cars this week? That is our Beachman 64, which is an e-bike. And what Julie and I did is we did some hot riding on it. So I'm putting leather bags on it and other things. But
look at that fairing. You added the fairing on that?
Actually, it came that way, but you're right. It's not an original.
Oh,
Yeah, but I don't have any. Here's the better picture of the fairing. I think the best one I've got. But yeah, so that's just been an absolute delight for me to have. And that's the only thing I did in cars this week because other than that, I just worked. That's the truth. And I didn't have any seat time in either my simulator or the go-kart track. But given that this is the start of the Formula One weekend, I plan on doing at least the simulator. Let's move on to automotive news. And I'll go first and I'll go through these points really quick. The Obama switch, which I didn't know that was called until I started reading about it. The Obama switch has been removed, the start-stop button. Now, I want to ask our engineer buddy, Shanu, a question because I've asked other people this. And I think they gave me bullshit, politically correct answers. And I'm going to ask you the question directly. Other than if it were a dry sump, you explain to me how turning off and restarting engines is not an enormously horrible thing, especially for the top part of the engine. If the car's been sitting at the traffic and then you have to constantly start and restop it. How is that supposed to be better than letting the car just idle and somehow with 13 catalytic converters always or on every car? When I've asked other people that, their response told me whether they were green new energy types or whether they were being practical and being honest, or they just didn't know. Shanu, I'm tipping it to you.
Well, listen, I'm not going to claim to be an emissions expert, and certainly start-stop technology is not in my wheelhouse of knowledge. But here's what I can say. The worst emissions are generally at cold start. So in this case, you've got a car that's already warm. Catalytic converters are already at good operating temperature. So shutting the car off, it's going to, or shutting the engine off effectively is going to cause less emissions. And so you fire the car back up. Well, you got nice, hot, catalytic converters that are going to clean, the emissions. So that's my thought on it. It just
engine.
It is a frustrating technology. I don't like it, but
yeah. But engine life though, that's what specifically I was focused on. So the wear and tear of the car stopping and starting, that's the worst thing you can pretty much do to a car. No,
I mean, when the engine is warm, it's not so bad. I mean, the starter is probably going to take the toll of this, the brunt of it. So I would say, the starters are probably something that may, get worn out sooner. But I don't know, if the jury's out on this yet. If there's enough history to see, has it killed starter life, or degraded it significantly? I don't know the answer.
Well, fortunately, we don't have to wait around to find the answer because the president has made it so that's no longer relevant. So that was my first bit of news, which I too hate that. It's ridiculous.
Well, what I find interesting about that, Tim, is it's not just enthusiasts who don't like it. Like my wife tries to figure out how to turn that crap off. It's like everybody I know, nobody is like, oh man, I'm so glad this thing has start stop. It's a nuisance for everybody. And I don't know if our current administration knows the answer to this. They seem to claim they do, but the cost and the complexity that it adds to a car seems like pretty unnecessary, especially if everybody is trying to figure out how to turn it off whenever they drive their car.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the other little bit of automotive news I had was, I'm not sure how much news this is, but I thought I'd actually post this up because I know you guys are sports car people. Caterham is planning on expanding in the United States. I guess they have new ownership. So I went to their website because I was trying to prepare for today's show and do some homework on these. So these cars all start at about 50 grand, but there's one major component that's missing. You guys want to guess what it is? So you can buy a new Caterham, okay, but there's one big old part of it that's missing that you still have to supply. And I'm not talking about 50 grand. I'm not talking about the money.
The engine?
The engine, of course.
Yeah. The engine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so no matter what is interesting on Caterham's site, no matter what variant you're going, because there's obviously hot rod versions of these things too. They're always suggesting the same Ford 2-liter motor, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, Duratec. Yeah.
Yeah. Duratec. So you buy one of these for 50 grand. And by the time you get it all sorted out, put a heart in it, what are we at? 60 grand, you think? What do you guys think?
Yeah, a little bit more. I mean, probably 75 to 80 all in is what it's going to run you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
And my question would be, what's I assume that's a 2-liter Ford that you would put in there. But like, what's that like? Is that a nice, eager powertrain? Is it enjoyable to use? I don't know. I have no experience with that. So that's always the the question I have is, yeah, I'm sure you can make power. I'm sure the chassis and everything would be so engaging. But for those of us who care about the engine, and what that motor up front or back is doing, is that going to add or detract from the experience other than just horsepower and torque?
Well,
yeah, I mean, listen,
go ahead,
the thing to understand is it's a very lightweight car, right? About 1,400 pounds. And so the experience of driving a open, pretty lightweight car like that, it's more than just the experience you get from the engine. You're getting the wind buffeting you. You're watching the wheels turn as you're catching the car with some opposite lock. So there's so much more to the overall experience. Yeah, I think I'd prefer a higher revving engine, but the Duratec makes a fair amount of torque down low, so the car will just pull relentlessly. And, the overall experience, I will tell you, it's a lot of fun. I mean, look, the Caterhams are based on Lotus Super 7s, right? That's it's almost like you queued up the Lotus segment with a Caterham, which is great because you look at that car. I mean, it's been on the market for 70 years, right? Caterham's been, selling this for 55 some years. Amazing.
But start out though. So I sent you guys a video about the history of Lotus. I prepare for our shows. Unlike you guys to just show up. Okay.
When did you send that video? What, a minute before we started this?
No, last night. Last night. Huh? I sent it last night.
But I never got the, did you get this, Blair? I didn't get it.
And it explained the whole history of
Colin Chapman.
Oh, yeah. I guess I did send it and he did watch it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I watched a good chunk of it, but that was it. The Lotus Super 7 I learned was like,
right.
And I thought about these Caterhams. The Super 7s are a really, really old car. What was that? It's like 60 years old at this point or something. And the fact that you can still buy basically that platform and throw a powertrain in there is like actually pretty unbelievable.
Well, I wrote an article and we talked about it a little bit last week for a Full Throttle Talk newsletter. If you guys aren't subscribed, you got to subscribe. I mean, all three of us are writing articles, 3 and 4 articles a week. And you obviously love the podcast. You're going to love the newsletters. But one of the articles was about the fact that it's very likely that the new, I don't even know what to call it, luxury in automotive is going to be lightweight. So the new benchmark is going to be lightweight. We talked about this last week with the new Ferrari 296 CS, right? So chasing horsepower numbers, I don't even see any future in that. Chasing autonomy, sports car guys don't want that. Different colored paints. I mean, come on now, right? So it only makes sense to me that if you're trying to differentiate your new car product, you're going to be chasing lightweight, which means what? Cars are going to be smaller, they're going to be more nimble, and you're going to see big conversations that are focused in on driver feel and all the rest of it. Do you have any thoughts on that, Blair?
No, I mean we need more options along those lines, and that's what we're all like clamoring for is please. And it may, like I think I said it last week, we might all just have to call Shanu, and say, hey, I got to build the car that I want because nobody else will. So hopefully that's not true.
But along those lines, though, I think Shanu is truthfully, I think he's a little early to the market with his big vision as far as lightweight cars, because there's not very many people. And the biggest problem is that the brands that are mostly lightweight cars aren't the big flex brands. And that could very well change if the, flex existing brands start making lightweight cars. All it has to take is a couple of automotive influencers saying the new Flex is lightweight, and then that's exactly what will happen, I think. What are you thinking, Shanu?
No, I think you're spot on, Tim. You mentioned that, and I was like, holy shit, he is so right. Can you say that again?
Can you say that again?
Really clear. He's occasionally so right,
It feels good to be validated by the engineer.
It was very insightful, and I think you're right, because as manufacturers need to differentiate. That's it. Like the ZR1X. I mean, good God. I mean, at what we're at a point of diminishing returns where how much faster can a car go? And so if Ferrari, if Lamborghini, whoever, McLaren, if they truly want to start to differentiate, they can still do their hypercars and all this crazy stuff. But I think the more reasonable cars, if they can focus on lightweight, like you suggested, as well as feel, right? Let's deliver a car that tingles all the senses. It sounds wicked, and, feels so alive. That's where I'm convinced, to your point, that's going to be the future. And I've got my fingers crossed.
And you brought this up in one of the articles you wrote too. I mean, if you look to see where, let's just say enthusiastic consumers of any product, be it watches, be it coffee makers, be it, I keep on putting my wrist because it's, watches is the best example. I mean, there's tons of amazing digital watches, but people want watches with lots of complications and the rest of it. I really do think that the new desirable car is going to be the lightweight. I mean, do you guys have any desire for a 01 or a 01X? I mean, if you could get one and pricing wasn't an issue, would you just be, hell yeah, I'm getting one? Or would it be like, eh?
Yeah, I'm not super interested in that. I am very interested in the Z06, and I think I already confessed to you guys I'm getting one next year. So, but the Z01s are just beyond my interest of what they're going to be capable.
Why?
Because I mean, I can't use much of that, and so on the road, and so other than bragging rights, what else am I going to do, with that car? I think that I can have more fun with the Z06, particularly because the engine is going to be so, exciting and sound so wonderful. And that exceeds what I truly need on the road.
And so go ahead, Blair.
I said it last week. I want to drive it to see if it's really engaging at moderate speeds. And a lot of guys have said that it actually is. It's gotten less critique than I thought it would for just being an assault when, from a speed standpoint. When Jason Camisa says it's a hell of a car, not just because it's the fastest car ever built production wise, but because it's actually kind of a hell of a car and you can drive the thing. I'm super curious about it, and I'm skeptical because of what Shanu said. Feels like a ton of car when you could have a Z06 that revs to the moon and sounds like that. I don't see what the additional 100K is for.
Do you think do you guys think the C8 is pushing people out of their preconceived notions about what it means to be a Corvette buyer?
Absolutely. And here's one data point that I'll give you. There are more people coming to the Corvette driving school at Spring Mountain than ever before. The mid-engine dynamics of the C8 have, frankly, freaked out a bunch of traditional Corvette customers to say, I got to go get training, and they go to the track. So that class, every week, that place is just packed full of students. So I will tell you, it has opened their eyes. And yeah, actually, and then another little tidbit I learned from one of my industry insiders that works at GM is that the next C9 is going to feature something very exotic, and he wouldn't tell me the details. Okay. And, so if you think of like,
I think Blair just nailed it.
Is like,
I want a gear shifter, please.
Similar,
Is it? So can we guess? We're not just
let's guess. I mean, I listen. He's not willing to tell me yet, but we'll find. I'll find out soon enough. But
was it very exotic, like alien tech, or was it very exotic, like air quote very exotic?
Yeah, so something that you would expect in like an exotic car. Okay, so we can rule out the Aero, right? They got big wings. They got carbon, wheels. Like that's kind of, I don't think it's that because Corvette's already got that stuff. So is it 3-seater maybe?
Tim, you've owned the most exotic cars. Well, I don't want to speak for Shanu. It seems like you have with your Ferrari experience. What could that possibly be? How exotic is a manual transmission? I'm trying to talk myself into that. Being an exotic.
What you're saying, I bet you what they're going to do is it's going to have obviously a redesign. Did you guys see the Corvette? What do you want to call it? But the cars they had on display. I'm sure I don't know if you guys went to Quail, but the cars they had on display were just phenomenal. It looked so incredible.
Absolutely.
So if Corvette really wanted to eviscerate the competition, they would come out with something that really did look like the car they had at the Quail and active aerodynamics, which is what I bet it is. I don't think there's going to be a big enough take rate for a C8 with a manual transmission, unfortunately, because if you think about the number of, it's too fast. You can't keep up with it. And I just don't think it'll be as enjoyable. Frankly, I think PDK cars and like Porsches are in my Ferrari. They're amazing. Not as engaging for damn sure, but I can't imagine having 1,000 horsepower and with a manual transmission. Talk about, barely useful. There it is. People can argue all they want, but I don't know. Go drive one. That's my thinking. Hey, so Blair, automotive news. Looks like you're going to be waving the Volkswagen flag. What do you got?
Well, listen, I learned how to drive manual transmission and a car period in a 1988 I think it was Volkswagen Cabrio, like the Rabbit convertible.
Nice.
And we had a stream growing up of Volkswagens. It was Jettas galore at my house. I think something with my dad, military service in Europe, I think.
There you
And
go.
so Volkswagen, what I'm getting at is they just gave a preview apparently in Wolfsburg to their employees on what the new Mark 9 Golf is going to look like from a silhouette standpoint, which I have a picture of behind me here. And, I think what interests me about this, it sounds like the new Mark 9 Volkswagen. There's your Scirocco, which is so cool. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It appears that the Mark 9 Golf is going to be, Tim, I can't focus if you're going to be flashing that VR6 or whatever's under that hood.
Man, I love the Scirocco. That is such a great car.
It's a Mark 1. It's a VR6.
Oh my God, look at that, huh?
It's a VR6 that was originally in it's a Porsche Cayenne. So it's got the 3.2. And so this has got ridiculous horsepower. Yeah, this was another stupid 3-year build. Okay. So, but I love
gearbox. What gearbox is in there?
One that needs the shifter cable fixed, but it's a GTI motor or GTI transmission.
Oh my God.
But yeah. Did you know that the rumor is, Blair, that the motor that they're putting in that new Volkswagen, by the way, where'd you learn to drive manual transmission in, Shanu?
A 1976 Renault R12 GTL.
Okay. So I learned
I got to look that up.
Horrible shifter. This car was the stupidest looking car. You didn't know if it was coming or going. Okay. The front and the rear looked exactly the same, but it had 4 doors. It had a kick-ass stereo. It was my dad's, he called it his French mistress, and that car broke all the time. I mean, I'd park it. It was perfectly running fine. The next day,
like a French mistress, broke all the time.
Oh my God. Broken all the time. Yeah, it was fun. It was, in high school, listen, it was good. It was the car that got me working on cars, actually. So
you had no choice,
Tim?
I had no choice
to drive manual in.
Diesel Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Which is a great car to learn how to drive manual transmission on because it has all that low down torque, so it's almost impossible to stall it.
Yeah,
that's nice. Well, I want to hear what you have to say because I have heard rumors about potential 5-cylinder from the RS3, making its way into,
that's what I've heard.
Into a Golf R. But this article made it sound like the Mark 9 was going to be all EV, the ID.golf. or ID Golf. And that they were going to continue to develop the Mark 8 for the combustion car. And maybe that's what you're referring to, Tim. I think what fascinates me about this story is, and I will continue to say it, as much as I can criticize legislators, I'm really sympathetic to these auto manufacturers who have had this legislative train coming down the tracks at them, and they think they've got to pivot to all EV. And so they do that, or they start doing that, invest a ton of money, and now they're pivoting away from it. Like, is anybody going to buy the Mark 9 ID Golf? Not if it only goes to 250 miles on a charge and costs $55,000. And so I'm just curious to see how this is going to end up. I mean, I love GTIs. I've owned a couple of them. Golf R, I've owned one of those. I love the Volkswagen Golf.
Do you guys know who Tim Burton is? Shmi.
Come on, Tim, 150. Yeah.
Okay, so he actually, I watched something that was really good, and he was being, by the way, met him many times, super classy guy, and his wife is brilliant, really, really nice people. So he is on this YouTube video, and he's talking about the fact that the greatest scam ever happened in automotive was EV cars, because essentially it was from a scam from beginning to end. You guys got to watch it. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree, but mostly I agree. And if you look at what's happening, and that got me going on a rabbit hole, and I didn't put it in our notes, but it's worth mentioning. If you look to see what the Chinese have done with electric cars, it's extraordinary. You can right now, Geely and all these other Chinese manufacturers, they can produce a whole car plant where the cars are being made by robots, the whole thing in 18 months. They're putting up new facilities to make electric cars in less than 2 years. But here's what I didn't know. And actually, Shanu, I may have messaged you this. You can send them your designs for your next car, do a low volume producer so you don't have to crash test them. And then you can actually have a they'll white label your car for you. You send them to design, you do the whole thing, you ship them. I know this has been happening with European manufacturers for a while, but I didn't know at what scale it's actually available right now for Chinese cars. You send them your design, you could start Chanew's electric EV sports car, where the hell you want to call it, and the Chinese will make it. You do less than 350, you don't have to have them crash tested, and you can be literally making your own cars mass produced, brand new with whatever warranty you want to put on them. I think that's kind of extraordinary, but it also tells you like the Chinese government had subsidized, like who knows how much money these guys are losing per car because the Chinese government is subsidizing because it wanted obviously the Chinese EV industry to dominate. But here's how dumb the Europeans are. They allowed those Chinese cars to enter into their shores, and they completely, if you want to know, to your point, Blair, what actually happened with EVs in Europe, it's all the things you said, but it's also because the big brains over in Germany, all these other countries allowed the Chinese to dump their cars unfairly priced into their markets and absolutely has eviscerated most of the European car manufacturers. That's actually what's happened. Stupid politicians.
Yeah. So listen, there's two sides of that story, right? And I'm more in your camp when it comes to that. I think you have to be very careful about this, but without competition, okay, the incumbents are not going to do anything different, okay? And trying to get the industry to move to new ideas, new technologies, it doesn't happen without a little bit of strong arming. And so there's some financial pain that comes from it. And, again, I've been saying this for a very, very long time, having been in this auto industry, for 41 years now, I've had a front row seat. And I talk to my fraternity brothers who are all in the same industry. And we talk about this and we've had a front row seat to some of the fundamentally biggest changes this industry has ever seen. And yeah, I mean, to your point, right now, there's this huge shakeup. There's going to be some consolidation. There's going to be some adjustments in the various capacities that these companies have. And I think ideas like a skateboard platform that you can now put a completely different body onto, this is exactly what needs to happen, and this is what keeps things fresh. It keeps companies competitive, and we're going to lose some of these brands because they're not going to be able to keep up with it.
But why EV? Why is it that everyone has been brainwashed into believing the future is EV? Explain that to me. And don't say environmental, because I've got something that'll rug pull you if you say that.
Yeah,
so why EV?
I mean, look, it's a new technology that is simpler and will allow these car manufacturers some more flexibility, for the long haul. I look, without some level of change, I would say ICE vehicles, for example, are as clean as they've ever been, and there's certainly a strong case to be made that lifetime emissions, from the manufacturing to the end of life of a car is actually maybe better than the EVs. But I've heard that argument in the other direction too. But either way,
have you ever studied synthetic fuel? Have either one of you ever studied synthetic fuel? All right. So if they had to put the same amount of extraordinary piles and piles of billions of dollars, right, and not into EVs, but into making synthetic fuel cheaper and making the ICE engines even more efficient, we would be all the manufacturing, none of these problems would be happening right now. And because again, I'm a nerd and I studied this. If you do synthetic fuel, you can use the existing supply lines. You can use gas stations and gas pumps, and you don't have all the anxiety with regards to range. And how about this? The market doesn't want EVs, and they sure as hell don't want used ones. So all of this was an unforced error, which is really going to screw automotive for, probably a whole generation. How are they going to come back? Opening the door for who knows what's next, because that's the nature of market economies.
Well, and Tim, I've defended last episode and today these manufacturers as being, pawns in the political game. However, I do think, to your point, they need to share or shoulder some of this responsibility and blame for this, because I think EVs have been fodder for the marketing departments. So it's like, this is easy money in their eyes to say, oh, look how fast these cars can go. Oh, this is like the new tech. So it's not just, okay, politicians, I don't believe anyways, politicians strong-armed us, we got to go do this. I think they jumped on board fairly willingly, because you can market something radically new and much faster and higher tech. And it's like, well, I think they both absolutely shoulder some of the responsibility. And what I continue to think is going to be so fascinating. The problem with EVs now, from an enthusiast standpoint, I can't really speak to the environmental impact, even though I've heard both sides of it. From an enthusiast standpoint, your Ferrari Luce is going to have more or less the same powertrain and feel that a Nissan Leaf has had, in terms of, it's just the question is how much torque do you want? But you take a Pura Sangue versus a Nissan Murano, the powertrain is everything. That VR6 you have in your Scirocco is like, it gives the car its own unique character, and almost no two engines are the same. Now you're going to stack up the most exotic Pininfarina Battista next to a Tesla Model 3. They feel the same. The character of the powertrain's the same.
Those Pininfarinas, they supposedly sold 3 of them.
I know like two guys who were courted locally here in Utah, and they took him out to the racetrack, Utah Motorsports campus, to try to get these guys to buy one. And they both came off the track. I talked to one of them, and I heard the other one's report of it, and just said, that was not a great experience. And they want like $3 million for it. Hard pass.
Beautiful though. And what's a Lotus? Trying to swing it back to Shanu. What's out? The gorgeous Lotus EV. Oh my gosh, that thing was nuts.
The Avaya,
yeah. Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah, really cool car. And, in person, it looks really wonderful, has a great presence. But, again, I agree. Look, these are halo vehicles that some of these brands, latched onto because they thought, there was going to be an ICE ban in 2035. So they had no choice. It's like these OEMs trying to make a change direction. It's like changing the direction of an oil tanker. Okay. It takes a long time to get that tanker to move. And, the OEMs were the same way. You just can't switch up that quickly. And I think hindsight's 2020. Back to your point about synthetic fuel. I hope more investment goes into that space, because I think that will be certainly a better solution for a lot of people.
It was killed. I mean, basically what happened is Porsche bought.
Isn't Porsche working on it?
Yeah, no. I mean, it was killed from actually ever getting any momentum in the marketplace, and the green energy people killed it. That's what happened. And Porsche, I forget what country there are in where they're actually making the synthetic fuel,
like Brazil or somewhere, right? Or
I think it's
somewhere in South America,
somewhere down there.
But if you guys don't know what synthetic fuel is, essentially it's synthetic gas. It doesn't come from dead dinosaurs, basically. So research it. And the problem with it right now, and I think Formula One, by the way, is using only synthetic fuels, which is pretty exciting because it tells you which direction the OEMs want to go for 2026. I'm 99% sure that they're only running synth fuels. That's the future. Maybe hybrids too. I don't know. I mean, I think electric propulsion is a new turbo. And, people said, like you want your Z06 in a turbos and you want more power, you put a turbo on your Elise, right? I think all electric is going to be as an enhancement to an ICE motor. That's personally where I think everything's going to go. Cause then you have electric turbos and all the rest of it. But yeah. So Shanu, did you have any news, or can we move on to the next section?
Well, I think you guys teed up my news, which is, the new class from BMW is supposed to be introduced on March 18th. And they announced that this week. And so I think BMW styling has been a snooze fest to like, an obnoxious, kind of like, direction for the last 20 years, in my opinion. And so the new class, I feel like that picture that's behind me, that styling is actually more interesting to me than what they've been doing.
Cover your camera, because when you do, it'll just show the...
it's not working. I tried that. So I don't know what setting I got to change. But
Shanu, by the way, I think though, as a BMW guy, those are fighting words. I think the monstrosity of their design started like 5 years ago, not 20 years ago. Okay.
No. I got one word for you. What was that dude's name?
It's been a snooze.
Bangle. Chris Bangle.
Yeah. Bangle, I think, was the perpetrator of the downfall of their design. So anyways, I'm kind of interested to see what the hell this thing's going to finally look like. They've been showing the crossover SUV versions, and they look horrendous to me. In fact, I think Frank Stevenson, if you guys know that name, the designer, he did the F430, MC12, Maserati. He actually did the
McLaren
BMW.
He's doing McLaren.
Yeah, P1 at McLaren.
Yep.
And I think he did He did the original X5 and I think the first new Mini Cooper. Anyhow, very accomplished American, car designer. I met him once. Pretty nice guy, really cool dude. And he actually has come out and blasted that new SUV of theirs, and I can't stand the way those things look. It's just the
XM.
What in the hell's going on, huh?
The XM.
Yeah, the XM, the iX3s, or whatever the hell these things, the new ones are called. In my who in the hell looks at that and says, I want to own one of those? That's a beautiful car. I mean, they look ridiculous to me. So I'm hoping that this new class is going to kind of come back to something that looks more BMW-esque. I kind of did a quick research and I can't confirm this, but BMW is outselling Mercedes and Audi. So even with this ridiculous styling of their cars, they're beating out,
it's crazy,
those two other brands. And that surprised me. I was, so it just goes to show you there's no accounting for good taste. But anyways, I'm interested to see what the hell this new class is going to ultimately look like.
And as much as I like to bag on EVs, I think some of the designs are spectacular. And if there is a silver lining to EVs, is you can make them a lot. You can do from a design standpoint.
But you just said it, Blair, and this is where this is where my mind was going. So if you can all of a sudden make small batch 350 or less cars per year, and if you don't have to, dot test it, and then they just become essentially cars you sell digitally, right? You sell them off social media and you get some influencers and it's the greatest thing ever. And then you have them made for you over in China and basically drop shipped over to the end user. I don't know how it all work. No dealer network, ship them direct, no governmental overregulation, make a really great looking sports car. It very well could be the real pivot that happens because of the big missteps that automotive has done. You could see
I'm not sure how that's going to happen. Like you still have to meet DOT and NHTSA requirements in this country at least.
But can't they do it digitally? No. I researched it. Okay.
No. Yeah, there's still some crash testing that's required and other safety requirements. But
I'm going to do battle with the engineer.
I'm with you in that.
This guy has built cars, by the way, Shanu. So.
That's how nutty I am, right? I've got my own sports car. But
what about the small volume producers that are out there now? Like, what's the guy that's making the cool Mustangs and whatnot down in Orlando? Come on, you guys, got to help me out here.
These are like the Restomod?
Revology.
Yeah. Revology.
Okay.
Revology. Okay.
So he's taking essentially rehabbing an old chassis or restoring it, but a lot of them are brand new chassis basically. And he's no crash testing, selling a new car. So why couldn't you're the engineer. Why couldn't you do the exact, and by the way, can't you do a lot of this, required government testing through design, through AI, and turn in the files showing what the, ramifications are, but he doesn't have to do any. And some of these other guys, Ariel doesn't do it. I mean, you didn't do it with your sports car, right?
Right. So we bring them in as kit cars. Okay.
Right.
We register them as kit cars. So that's a completely different program. Every state can legislate what their requirements are for a kit car, and crash testing and emissions is generally not a part of that. Back to your point about the low volume manufacturers legislation, that is not actually something that actually is effective, because there is a clause in there about the powertrain. You have to use a powertrain that meets current emission standards. None of the manufacturers will sell you a crate motor that does that. So right now you've got this legislation that should allow small volume manufacturers to produce a car, but they can't because there's no powertrain that meets that requirement. So right now it's kind of just hamstrung by that fact. Hopefully a crate motor will come.
But going back to my thesis, you're going to see people like you, sir, that are going to be able to start making lightweight sports cars and having them be all EV. Then you're going to completely qualify. And if you were to, Shanu, when I was exploring this, I obviously never have heard of any of these Chinese companies before, but there were probably like 4 or 6 of them that can operate just like I said. You send them your digital files, you work with their engineers, and then the cars arrive. That's kind of badass.
No, listen, I've been saying this for a long time, that type of technology, skateboard technology, if you will, is going to revolutionize things in the future, because for all the points that you've made, it makes a lot of sense. And consumers they're pretty agnostic about the powertrains. Most people just need to go from A to B. And so you need to convince them of other things. And frankly, practicality, styling, the usability, those are the things that I think will win over, clients, to Blair's point with his Mitsubishi, all that flexibility of configuration, right? That's really cool, man. Flipping the seats around, opening the roof.
Totally.
There was an EV startup that went bust called Canoe. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah,
right?
I thought they looked kind of cool. They took a lot of crap.
Yeah. I mean, hell, if you like that Mitsubishi, then 100% you're going to like the Canoe, right? And so I liked it. I thought, oh, this is really cool. And they had all sorts of interesting, seating configurations and different things. And I think for a lot of kids nowadays, that's going to be very appealing to them. So,
hey, speaking of skateboard, can we rehash the Porsche debate about what powertrain's going in the 718? I'm just kidding. We can do that another time, but it's that's a discussion that fascinates me. If they're pulling EV out of that new the Cayman Boxster, what power plant's going in there, and how do they make that work? Given that they designed the car with EV in mind. Some food for thought for another discussion, maybe.
Well, I mean, we have a 718 Spider RS, and I'm telling you right now, that is, to me, peak sports car, just for that in that genre. Just so much fun. By the way, I think all BMWs are ugly after that one.
Do you own that car? Will you sell me that one?
Yeah, no, well, I'll put you on the list. Yeah, that's an Alpina V6. Yeah, Alpina V6. Yep. All right, so let's move on. It's time to sell your car. Should you consign, wholesale, sell it to a dealer, or sell yourself? I'm going to go last on this one because I have a lot of opinions, strongly held but poorly argued opinions. So let's talk about the true cost of each option. So I'm going to have you go last, Blair, because I know you just sold a car. So Shanu, you go first. You have a car to. I'm going to even make it so you guys don't change the variables a lot because everyone likes to do that. So you're selling a you're selling an Audi R8. Okay. And it's a nice car, no problems, freshly serviced, good tires. You're not embarrassed about anything about it. It's a strong car, always buyers for those things. You tell me what your decision matrix is for deciding how you're going to sell it.
So listen, to me, I know for a fact, if you sell something privately, you're going to get, more money for the car. That's a fact. But there's a lot of headache that comes along with that. For me, that's fine. I'm willing to do that in certain cases. And so I think that when most buyers that are willing to pay a premium, generally speaking, for a specialty car like that, they want to buy it from the guy who's owned the car, who's got the history and that sort of thing. And so I would say a private sale is generally going to get you more money.
You said something I hadn't even thought about, and that's very interesting. So you're saying you're going to get more money, not just because you're not leaving money on the table for the dealer or the wholesaler. You're saying you're going to get more money because the consumer can deal directly with the previous owner, and most consumers, especially with sports cars, put more value on that. That's very fascinating.
Yeah, like oftentimes you've heard this phrase, buy the seller, okay?
Yeah.
You want to trust the person that is selling you this car, and oftentimes that's the best way to get the most for your car.
See, and I think that can be true, but I also think dealers are in the habit of getting full retail. When I take Porsches right now, and I see both air-cooled and water-cooled cars, what dealers are asking for these cars, some of the dealers I follow, asinine dollar amounts, and then they're gone 10 days later. They sell them. It's like, I am convinced.
Or have they shipped them through wholesale? That's the one thing
these are nice cars. These are nice cars. And Porsche is just overheated the market right now, as we already talked about. But I'm convinced that people largely, they put a lot of trust in dealers. Oftentimes they should not.
Let's let Shanu finish. Okay. So Shanu, finish with what you were saying. You started out by saying that basically your preference would be to retail the car yourself. Would there be a scenario where you wanted to wholesale it or consign it through a dealer? Like in the order of things, you're saying Shanu Mapleton, number one, retail it himself. What would be number two if you were making a decision?
So I think going through a dealer who really knows the product is really certainly the way to go, because there are people that are, hitting their website, calling them, they got a Rolodex of clients looking for certain things. And so if you find the right dealer, I think that would be a very, very good way to go. Now, having said that, we're actually going to put our 111 RS up on an auction site. I'm still trying to debate between BAT and Cars and Bids, but I'm kind of curious, and part of it for us too is to get some awareness of a broader audience. And so a lot of people are trying to lean me towards Bring a Trailer as the place to go. And it's funny because, Blair, you had that excellent article that you wrote about Bring a Trailer, and it got me thinking. So yeah, I mean, that's where my head's at anyways.
So, okay. So under no scenario would you wholesale it? Have you ever just wholesaled a car? Just what's the dealer going to give me and just walk away?
I haven't done it, but it certainly is the painless way to do that. You're giving up margin, and it certainly alleviates a lot of headache. So I like it from that perspective. And if the money is not as critical to you, if you just don't want to deal with tire kickers and all the headache of selling a car, that's actually a nice, easy way to get your car sold.
All right, Blair. So you have your Audi to sell, which you just did. And so you have the various ways: retailing it, wholesaling it, consigning it, which is kind of retailing, wholesaling. And then obviously, Bring a Trailer, auction site. Which direction are you going to go and why?
Well, here is a picture of the Audi I just consigned to a dealer, and they sold it very quickly, actually. And I have sold 2 cars through Bring a Trailer. So, and obviously countless just private sale, classifieds, whatever. And for me, part of it is not only my gut feel on a particular car, but also how much energy I have to go through the process. Selling on Bring a Trailer, if you do it right, is a ton of work. And, I've sold a couple older BMWs on Bring a Trailer, and we've driven up in the mountains, and I have a photographer, and we have incredible photos. And, I don't always have the energy for that, even though it's exciting, it's fun. I've done very well on both of my sales on Bring a Trailer. But I think just to get back to the point I was making, I think buyers are lazy. So they see a car at a dealer and they say, oh, wow, look at that car. They'll even take my car on a trade, and they'll help me with the financing. So I'm just going to go pay the dealer more or less what he wants. And that's what happened with my R8. And
so how did you structure the deal on your R8? You just went in there, and you guys agreed to a retail price, and then the dealer said he's going to take his 10% probably, and you said, okay, Bob, and then walked out. Essentially, is that how the deal was structured?
Yeah, pretty much. I sold my 85 Carrera through these guys as well, and I had no intention to do that. I thought that was going to be a Bring a Trailer car. But they have a lot of tools. If you find a good dealer, I think that is key, that you can build a relationship with. But they had a lot of tools looking at every R8 that was for sale, and a lot of data around what has sold that the general public doesn't have access to. So with my consignor, it was a very consultative. We sat down and they flipped their screen around and said, Blair, this is what all the R8s have brought and are being asked right now. Here's how yours compares. And there's not a lot out there. We could be competitive if we start it here. And then they asked me basically, what's your reserve? What can we not go down below when we go sell this? And so there's a little bit of that Bring a Trailer.
Stop there, because that sounds like an honest person you're dealing with. Okay. So they weren't trying to the problem with consignment ultimately is they're going to get paid their 10% no matter what your net is. And so they'll get the car consigned. It's like going to I sold a Ferrari through, I forget what auction house it was. And I had somebody else represent me since I didn't want to deal with it. And what's the big one where they put a ton of pressure on the sellers? The long story short is the auction house beat the crap out of him to get him to lower the reserve. And I would have been better off wholesaling the car. I would have made more money net. Wow. So the technique that I suggest to most everyone, and you did it, is go to an honest dealer. You don't have to anymore. You can go to classics.com. You can go to Haggerty.com. You can really Bring a Trailer's got a kick-ass database. Find out what the car is worth. And then when you go to a consignment dealer, if you know you can wholesale it for, if you get a wholesale offer, so that's the first thing, know what the car is worth. Second thing is go to a dealer and say, I just want to sell it. I know what these cars are worth. I know you need to mark a margin. What's the bottom line of what you're able to get me for it? And then you really have an understanding of what the market is. And so what I do, and this is what I've always done when dealing with a consignment dealer, is I'll go to them and I'll say, look, this is my bottom line, and you all can keep anything above that. Right? That you guys, that's it. And you don't come to me and ask me for take less than that. Don't hit me up for a bunch of Mickey Mouse storage fees and transpo fees and charge me $1,000 to detail the car and $1,400 for pictures. That's on you. And if you don't sell it, you're going to lose that money. I mean, to me, that seems like the honest way to do it. But most of these consignment dealers anymore, what they're doing, especially the ones on BAT, is they're charging. Do you guys know they charge 10%? And they don't absorb the selling costs. So the buyer is paying BAT. They're up to $7,500 or whatever it is. But then when you're using one of the BAT approved sellers, you're paying usually around 10% plus if he can get you to pay it, and if his hard costs for getting the car for sale. And you'll be, it's too expensive. And I know you have to do a lot of conversing with the person and making sure that, some naysayer doesn't trash your car and auction all the rest of it. I get that. Not that much work considering how much money you might be leaving on the table. So,
well, I think it's worth noting that this dealer for me only charged me 5% to consign it. So as far as I was concerned, just to be able to literally go drive it downtown, drop it off. And at the end of the day, it cost me a few grand. And I think they're already going to get close to retail. And by the way, they said, if there is something that comes up in a PPI or whatever, they have a service shop, and they said they were willing to give me discounts on some of the maintenance or the repairs that required, because now they're incentivized to get this deal done. So, I've had decent experience. Am I going to do that with every car? No. My 911 was about to go on Bring a Trailer, but they had a buyer for it, and I had a number in my mind I thought I could get for it, and they were right there, and they took 5%, and it was like, done.
Here's the tell to know whether or not a consignment dealer is lying to you. Ask them what they pay you for the car. That's the answer. And if they're telling you a number that's lower than what they're telling you can get at auction, it's because they're waiting to beat you up and get you to lower your reserve or take a lower net than what you think for yourself. I've done this before. I've been on I've never sold cars. I'm not a car dealer, but that's how you got to do it. You got to put a floor under it. Otherwise, you're going to leave money on the table in ways you hadn't thought of.
And there is risk. Like Shanu, you put your 111 RS on Bring a Trailer, which again, I love, I've used. And let's say that kind of flames out and people don't, now you've got a public record of what the market thinks your car is worth. It's hard for you then to go consign it for 20 grand more, or for you to put it up for sale. And so there is a certain amount of risk you're assuming by running that through a public forum like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you just got to have the confidence that you think, you're being reasonable about it. Look, we're not trying to get $250,000 for a Lotus. Okay. There's people trying to get $350,000 for their resto modded Lotuses, and so we're trying to be more reasonable about it. And, but I have to, if I can interject one thing, which is a slight change. I love the design of that R8 and Walter De Silva. That design I was getting jaded with mid-engine designs. Man, I love that R8 when it came out. I felt it was like one of the first changes. Like the F430 was out at the time, and I was getting kind of blasé with
gorgeous car
designs. Yeah, Walter De Silva. In my background, I've got the Alpha 156 that he did. So cool. The guy was one of the great car designers. Sorry, I couldn't help but that design of that car is so special to me.
To answer my own question, going forward, when I have a car for sale, I'm going to sell it for myself. I'm going to put it on Bring a Trailer. And by the way, your Lotus is the perfect car to sell on Bring a Trailer because it just had a bunch of higher level media hype, and people might just buy it for the hype. Now, speaking of hype, you guys won't like this pivot, but it's still a good one. What do you guys think the Magnus cars are going to do at RM auction?
God, man,
bring a ton of money.
You think? I had a Magnus car. I bought a Magnus car, a 67S.
Why?
It wasn't the greatest experience, was it, Tim?
Why?
Okay, now this was way back before he became Magnus, okay? And he hadn't, I'm going to just tell the whole story. He had bought the car. He didn't do much to it. He put different seat inserts and the rest of it. And why did I buy it at the time? Because I wanted a 911 hot rod. And I was influenced by the fact that he definitely was somebody very passionate about cars. I mean, Magnus is a really classy, nice. He just is a really great guy. Just is.
Okay, cool.
And so I thought, well, this car was a great car. And then I got into it and I found out that it wasn't a great car. And I don't think he knew, I'm going to say that, but this car was an absolute piece of shit. And the firewall was riveted in. Okay. So I had to have some body work done to it. And the body guy, I'm not making this up, when he was stripping the fenders, found out that whoever did the body work had used pennies to fill the rust holes.
Unbelievable. Well,
Yeah.
why didn't he know that about his car?
I'm not going to go down that path because I'm hoping
Okay,
that he
well,
didn't. I'm hoping that he
Tim,
didn't.
Yeah, you thought you were buying the seller, like in his case, is a cool car, but
Tim, did
I
you
mean,
know it
but
wasn't?
just let me finish this with him just for a
Yeah.
second. And you're right. Okay. What you just said is right. And I shouldn't, in that particular case, I should have done more homework and I was overbuying the seller. Right. But I don't think he actually knew. And I'll tell you why I don't think he actually knew, because I went and did some homework on that car before I decided to restore it. And then I found on Pelican breadcrumbs, which led me to the people that did do the body work. Now, did he buy the car knowing it was in that condition? Or did he buy the car like I did and found out it was in that condition afterwards and then decide to get rid of it? I don't know. Okay. But it all worked out. I mean, we ended up restoring it and it sold at auction. We didn't lose any money on it. So in that case, I was pretty happy.
Well, how did the car drive?
Honestly, I didn't give a rat's ass. I just wanted to get rid of it when it was done. I just
Well,
wanted it sold. It was so much heartache compounding. And this was right before the labor rates in Southern California went bonkers with cost of restoring these things. What's more is I love old Porsches. I love all the nerdy, the guys that know these cars. I just can't even imagine a more analytical group of people. And from a car enthusiast perspective, they're interesting and they're fun. And I love just the whole vibe. I just do. It is very exhausting because they will take an old 911, which everyone says is the best thing ever. And some of these guys are so freaking smart is they'll find tiny, tiny little picky ass details. And if they post it in the wrong place or whatever, everyone's going to think the car wasn't restored correctly. So by the time that car got done, I hired somebody named Dirk Layer, who Paul Kramer hooked me up with, by the way. And that Dirk was an absolute freaking Rain Man of old Porsche stuff. And he went to look at the Porsche at the place I had restored, and he made a list of all the things that he saw was wrong with it. They told me the car was perfect. I send them the list, and to this day, they still hate me for actually having taken in that level of responsibility for the final product. I'm sure they'll never work on another car with me because I didn't know what I didn't know. They said it's perfect, it's ready to go. Dirk went and made a list, and the things that he found were things they should have known. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, to answer your question, I think the Magnus cars are going to bring insane money. But
I don't think they will.
You don't?
Nope. I don't think they will. I think they're at the end of the day. I'm not sure if I don't want one. Do you?
I mean, Tim, you said it last week. The cult of Porsche. The cult has never been more
long hood market,
more of a fever pitch right now.
Long hood market.
That's why that
is dead.
This is why he's selling half of his collection, I believe, because he knows this is the pinnacle, and we're going to start cresting over that.
No,
and
bro,
he can capitalize right now.
No, the pinnacle was years ago. R67S. No, it was. I know that market really well. The pinnacle for long hood Porsches came and went years ago. Years.
But he's got a lot of stuff. He's got a 996 GT2 he's selling, and but fever pitch, all time high, and then it comes from the god of Porsche culture. It's like people are going to lose their minds. I wouldn't. Car, it drives really well. I feel like I'm very particular about that stuff, which is why I asked you how his car drove. And I just think people are going to say, the hell with it. I can own Magnus Walkers. I can't believe what people are paying for Porsches right now. And then you sprinkle that on top of it. I still think we're at the
what top. What Porsches you're talking about? I mean, are you aware of what the older long hood, the air cooled stuff is doing?
Well, I just saw, I follow 3.2 Carreras all the time, and a black on black on black with 74,000 miles just sold on Bring a Trailer the other day. Nice car. It was the same miles my car had. It was a G50. It was like an 87, 88, $96,000. There was nothing interesting about this car. It's like, this thing is not cooling off yet. I think 992s are going to start cooling off.
Those are G bodies, 964s, 993s, and but I'm telling you, the older ones, the mid-year, anything not, I mean, you could argue even the mid-years on back, that market's been flat for a long time. Just look at Haggerty. And personally, I think that's insane. I think the best ports, look, if you look at, for example, a 7911S or a 73 2.4, and you drive one of those cars, and it's a nice car, like people say the G50 and all that, you can go drive a 901 transmission car, and if the bushings are good, It's brilliant. And all I'm saying is the older long hood 911s, that market peaked, went down, and is flatlined. And though I completely don't understand why people have more passion for those older cars, I do understand why. It's because people your age, Blair, you're in your 40s, right? People
Yep.
your age didn't grow up with them. I didn't grow up with them either. I mean, I'm 55, but the older guys that long for those cars, if you go to an old Porsche meet, those guys are older than me, right? Those guys are in their 60s and their 70s, and they already have their cool car. So unfortunately or fortunately, I don't see that market coming back. Same with 356s, by the way.
But I heard him say he's
I would
selling
agree with
18
that.
cars and there's only a couple long hoods. So maybe that's true with the long hoods. All the other stuff, we're not seeing that sunset. I wish it would. I'm not seeing it yet.
I mean,
It'll
to
happen.
Blair's point, I do believe the cult of personality adds a halo effect and a premium to cars, right or wrong. You know, as an industry guy, as a car guy, as an engineer in this space working on them, I'm not affected or interested in the celebrity piece of that. You know, that makes no sense to me. But to what I always tell people is you've got to get a PPI. If you buy a car, I don't care who you're buying it from, get a PPI, get an independent PPI so that you can make sure the car is correct. Or at least they'll pick out the pennies that were used, instead of proper body work or other obvious things that a reasonable PPI would be able to catch.
Yeah.
That's another topic for another day, because I have mixed feelings on PPIs, but generally I don't think you're wrong if you're trying to avoid like a huge pitfall.
Well, let's see. By the next Full Throttle Talk, we'll see some auction results. I think it's happening this weekend, isn't it? I don't remember.
Might still be a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right, Blair. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the auction results are. And so
be fun to see.
It will be fun to see. There'll probably be some outliers. And I have to say, some of his best cars he's not putting for sale. He has got a really cool 964 that's slate gray, has red interior. He had Rod Emery put the perfectly done louvers in the front fenders. When you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just a gorgeous car. Paint's great, but a lot of his other cars are rough and ready. They're true sports purpose, fun cars, and I don't think they're going to sell for a premium. And that market, unless look, I'll give you a real ultimate example. There's been some of his cars that have sold, and they sold well once, but then they went back for sale and they didn't sell very well at all. So we'll see. We'll see.
I hope you're right. I genuinely hope you're right.
I genuinely hope I'm wrong, and Magnus makes a fortune from selling these freaking things. And I hope that he then puts that money towards a lot of old lightweight cars. That would be amazing. So let's move on to segment 4, this or that Lotus edition. Let's talk Lotus. What are the variants that no one is talking about that could be the next big thing? Let's do this or that. And I think I set this up pretty good, right? I'm trying to put some guardrails on it. Do you have pictures, Blair, by chance? Of your this or that's for Lotuses? Oh, he's going to pull out the heavyweight gun. Do you want to go first, Blair? Now, remember, here's how the game's played. Just to remind you guys, you put up 2 cars, okay? And then we all vote this or that. And as succinctly as you can, you try to explain, why those 2 cars are the ones you chose. And maybe if you have an opinion of which you would choose, but hold off until Shanu and I have had an opportunity to cast our votes. Cool?
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of podcasts ago, we did talk about the fact that I'm very interested in Lotus Emiras, Evora GTs, and Lotus Elises. So I didn't go that direction. And I made a comment, and Shanu, I want your take on all this stuff, because you are the Lotus guy. But those cars, I made the comment that Lotus was brilliant to partner with Toyota because those powertrains don't scare us. I picked 2 cars that are scary to me. And I have talked about maybe co-owning each of these cars with a friend of mine who's also an engineer, who's not terrified every time the car makes a weird noise like I kind of am. So the first one is this is a Lotus Elise, or sorry, Lotus Esprit, the ultimate wedge car. And this is I believe an S2. It's the 2.2 cylinder or 2.2 liter 4-cylinder turbo. And I have heard, now Shanu, I want your opinion on this. Some guys say the 4-cylinder turbo is better than the V8 twin turbo, which my original thought was, yeah, could that possibly be true? But from a simplicity, Lotus ethos, lightweight, chuckable, revvy car. A lot of
That's
guys
number
like
one.
that 4-cylinder.
All right, number two is
Number two is, I mean, every Miata guy, if they don't want a Lotus Elan, they're missing something. I would love listen to Gordon Murray the way he talks about Lotus Elans, and so my buddy and I always say, come on, we've got to get a Lotus Elan at some point. I can't imagine there's a more fun car to take in the canyons, to rip around town, but I am terrified to own both of these two. And they both traded recently on Bring a Trailer. That yellow picture wasn't, but a car just like that for low $30,000 range before the 10% buyer premium or buyer fee. So those are my two. They're cars that I always think about. The Esprit is gorgeous. It's like every sports car should look like that. And the Elan, I have a feeling, I haven't driven it, every sports car should drive like a Lotus Elan from everything I've heard. I love these two cars.
And that's a really beautiful picture too. If you guys aren't watching, that is a Lotus Elan. Shanu, help me out. Isn't that the S1?
So I don't know the generations well enough, but it does look like an S1 to me. Yes.
An S1. And let's take a half step back. His Esprit, wasn't the motor a Renault motor? Do you guys remember? I don't remember. I don't think it was some motor, some crate motor from somebody's going to message us on Instagram and call us a bunch of fools for not knowing this. And so my name is Shanu Mapleton. If you want to send any nasty messages for not knowing the Lotus hierarchy of old cars. Okay.
Him throwing me under the bus. Listen, I like the Esprit. It's okay. To me, it is one of the iconic Lotuses, but I don't really think it really fulfilled what they were truly about, which I think the Elan does. That particular Esprit you put up was a Peter Stevens design. Peter Stevens, he did the McLaren F1.
Wow.
Right? He did. Yeah. And if you look at even like the M100 Elan, Peter Stevens did that car. So the Lotus Elan from the 90s, which was a front driver and kind of most people thumb their nose at it. It actually has aged very well, the styling of it. But yeah, are we picking our favorites yet?
No, let's just do them one by one so we don't jumble up like we always do every week. So we have to choose one of his two cars.
Yes.
And you go last. I'm trying my best to herd cats with you guys. All right. So this or that, Shanu, what would you choose between the Elan or the Esprit?
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm taking the Elan all day long over the Esprit. I'm not a big fan of the Esprits, the way they would drive. It's just a little bit too big GT for me. The Elan epitomizes everything Lotus is about. So, to me, that's my choice.
I 100% agree. Looking at that picture, I was going to say excites me, but I didn't want, Blair to think I was meaning him. So the car behind you. Okay. But
it's the dome.
But that is such a sweet little car. I've never owned one of those things. I've never driven one. I'm actually embarrassed to say. And the simplicity of that car is absolutely brilliant. And I agree completely. So there you go. And you guys, listen, if you're listening or watching, make sure you do watch that video. Maybe we'll put it in our newsletter about Colin Chapman and about Lotus, because man, talk about a guy with an interesting history. I did not know any of that. Did you know, Shanu, all the things?
Of course. Yeah. I've been, a big fan of his for a long time, but even the way his life ended and how, I don't know if how much of that came out, but
it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really young.
You can't have a guy, 54, I mean, you can't have a guy that's that brilliant without having some, frankly, warts. He was very, very innovative. And when you look at some of the things that guy did and innovated into racing and into the auto industry, he's clearly genius level.
What were the things that stand out to you? You're a huge, passionate Lotus enthusiast.
Yeah. I mean, look, I actually, made a list of stuff because, the guy has, look, 7 F1, championships. How many manufacturers can state that, right? But some really cool technical innovations, the monocoque chassis, which is pretty ubiquitous now. He was the first. A stressed engine design, he was the first. Aerodynamic wings, wings, which are now so common everywhere. He is the one that brought that to the racing, stage.
What's a stressed engine design?
Engines bolted directly to the chassis.
Yes.
It's part of the structure.
Part of the structure. Exactly. And so, Yeah, another really interesting thing that wasn't so much engineering, but it was still a big innovation. And I actually mentioned in one of the videos I created recently about he was the first guy to bring sponsors to racing. Okay. I mean, like people are like, what are you doing? Well, hey, I need money, to run my race team. And so he was the first to do that. And now, I mean, obviously without sponsors, you surely couldn't fund a $250 million, race budget for an F1 team. Right.
Let's take a quick
So
side trip. Did you guys see what the F1 drivers in 2026 are getting paid salary? Did you see how much money they're freaking making? Holy crap. Freaking
yeah,
what is it?
Lewis
80,
Hamilton,
50, 80?
Lewis
yeah,
Ham, Lewis Hamilton, 70 million.
right.
He's making 10 million more than Max, but the guys racing for Cadillac who are seasoned Formula One drivers, Sergio and
And Bottas.
Valtteri,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're getting
Valtteri, yeah.
paid. I think it was 3 million
7 or 5 million. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. But I'm just thinking if you're on the grid and one guy's making 70 million and you're making 5 million, which is still 400 grand a month. Remember, those guys all live in Monaco, so they're not paying any taxes, right? I don't know how that actually works ego wise. That's got to be a thing. It has to be. You guys want me to tell you guys want me to tell you a fun story about Formula One? You'll love it.
Please.
It will go back to our topic. All right. So we are friends with Lando Norris's brother, Oliver Norris, and he came here to Puerto Rico and set up our simulator. So I was obviously asking him for as many fun Formula One questions or having as many conversations with him as I possibly could. And asking what some of these drivers are like when you meet them and it's just you and them and all these other things. He said a lot of funny things, but here's the funniest story. So I was asking him about who's the guy that races for Aston Martin? The son. Oh, who's
Stroll?
Stroll. Okay.
Lawrence
All right.
Stroll,
Stroll. So he goes, I got to think where to tell my story without feeling like I'm breaking a confidence. All right, so all those guys started out in go-kart racing, and they all knew each other, this current crop of drivers, minus Alonso and Lewis, who are older than them, but they all knew each other in Formula One racing, or I'm sorry, go-kart racing. And all of their dads, with almost no exceptions, are really rich. And Oliver was telling us that at the go-kart racing all over Europe, that the fathers were starting to compete for fanciest ass trailer. Okay. So it gets really hilarious. All right. So the fanciest ass trailer. So they would all have these big RVs and shit. And then, okay, go-kart racing, right? Guys are just like, it's ego fest times 1,000. So then it was essentially like a truce on the RVs. And then they started buying old, last generation Formula One hospitality vehicles. And that's what they were bringing go-karts in. So they basically had, okay, everyone started doing that. All these billionaires started doing that. And then finally, Lance Stroll's dad, I forget his name again. Anyway, so
Lawrence Stroll. Yeah.
Lawrence. Yeah. So he starts showing up and he has all the same exact beautiful trucks and everything, but theirs has all the pop outs and the pop ups and just is the craziest ass thing. But now Lawrence Stroll pulls the ultimate trump card. He starts flying his son to all these races and it's this private livery matched helicopter.
Nice.
So he was telling me the story because I was
crazy.
asking him, so what are the Formula One drivers actually like when you meet them in real life? And again, I don't want to talk out of church here, but he did say in essence that some of the drivers have grievances towards some of the other drivers for experiences that they had back in the days of go-karting, and they take them to this day, and I just thought that was a funny backstory. Yeah, in any event. So Colin Chapman, amazing story. I didn't know about any of those things that you just said. That's incredible.
Yeah, really, really, really incredible. And I think Lotus's racing successes kind of ended there, but I think they continue to have some innovations. But it's been kind of languishing. I think there's been a handful of things that they've been able to achieve after he passed away. But it's oftentimes a pretty common thing when that innovative founder, that kind of eclectic, crazy guy leaves or dies, then the rest of the organization doesn't quite have that same fizz, if we can use that term.
So where did the name Lotus come from? Blair knows because he watched the video.
Ooh.
You don't
Well,
remember?
the part of the video I got is they didn't know exactly. Maybe his wife. His wife
Okay,
chose it.
that was the
Hazel.
answer. That's what they
Yeah.
believed, his wife. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I did not know. Sounds like she was a real hot shoe. Total, like pushing him along the way, and at times was even a little faster than him when they first met.
And in business too. I mean, they seemed like that was really a historic, you know. So this or that, I think you're buying that the little Lotus. All right, so your next
I would
Chanel.
love that. I might have to.
Yeah, man, you know, honestly, that might make a great car for you to enjoy the spring and summer. So Chanel, you're next with this or that.
Okay, so let's see. I've got to put up a couple of cars here. You know, I've got Colin Chapman there, but let's, you know, to your earlier point that you made, you know, I think that I couldn't not put up a Super 7. You know, a car that was introduced in 1957 that is still being sold today, right? To your point earlier, Tim, here's a car with long legs. So that was choice number one for me because I feel it's the singular most iconic car they've ever produced.
Have you driven
So
one?
I have.
And
I've driven a
Yeah,
Caterham.
right.
I've
And
driven a
Caterham, yeah.
Yeah, I've driven a Caterham. Yeah, and so you know, again, it's you know, to me, it's just the evolution, right? And so it was a lot of fun. You know, just a really fun car. Just you know, a step up in safety over a motorcycle, but just you know, and so that's
You know,
that would be.
to interject, some of my favorite videos on YouTube are when these British guys are driving Caterhams and they've got, I don't know what those hats are, you know, it's not a fedora, is it? Or like, it's just one of those driving hats. And they're in the, like the Scottish Highlands driving a Caterham. That is like bucket list for every car guy. It is for, well, at least it is for me. I love watching those British dudes driving those things on great roads.
Yeah, and I think there are a number of companies where you can, you know, rent or as they say, hire a Caterham, you know, to drive there. So 100%, I think that's a great idea. We should do it. We should do it as a group, man. That would be a lot of
So
fun.
good.
there's a race series, an organized race series for those things. I think it's
Oh
only
yeah,
yeah. But
absolutely.
that's interesting.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna ask you some questions about this because I really don't know.
Okay.
Alloy or fiberglass back in the 50s had to be aluminum.
The yeah, aluminum.
Okay, yeah, because I don't think fiberglass technologies really existed then. Okay, so we have the original
Oh boy.
Super 7, or we have an S1 Elise.
Series 1 of Lotus Elise, right? Which to me was their next big innovation.
Gosh, look at that thing.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and 30 years later, that technology still holds if you're into lightweight sports cars. And so, you know, the innovations there from the extruded aluminum, you know, tub, you know, when you learn that they rivet, you know, this tub together and glue it, and that's the way the chassis is put together. It's like, what? That's a mind-blowing, you know, epiphany, if you will, when you learn that. But yeah, to me, that's the next car that I feel.
So talk to me. When I see S1s, that comment I've made about the 2ZZ and the reliable Toyota power plants, that's what always comes to mind with this Rover built engine, right?
Right.
Like what do you make of that motor?
Yeah, you're not wrong, Blair. I'm not a big fan of the Rover. I had a Sport 190 that we kept at the racetrack. So a Series 1 car, and it had this Rover motor, and you know, they were notoriously bad for overheating, and you'd warp the head. We had to take the head off. Nobody would work on it in the US. We had to send it to England to have it redone, you know. And so that kind of issue is a bit of a headache. And yeah, that engine's just it's okay, you know. It does, you know, the later version was better. And you know, there's a lot of people that have done K swaps over, you know, in Europe, and I think that's a more appropriate engine, you know. But you know, it's not that the Rover motor is bad per se, but be prepared for some reliability, you know, challenges that you know, we didn't face with the Series 2 cars with the 2ZZ Toyota motors.
So how does that compare to, never driven one, had a, you know, a Series 2 Elise, but how does that car compare to a Series 2 Elise, an actual feel?
So it's even more nimble. Okay. It's even more tossable. Okay. It's a little bit more, you know, scintillating in that you get more, you know, feedback from things, you know, the car just, you know, it's funny when you peel off another 2, 3, 400 pounds from a car.
Isn't that what it was though?
So we can feel-
Wasn't it 400 pounds lighter than the S2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really it showcased everything that company was about, in my opinion. And so it's the one that I put up as my second choice.
So more questions. I think Blair and I both have a secret crush on those S1s. Those cars are old enough now that you can bring them in legally into the United States, a left-hand drive one, ideally, obviously, correct? And why are people not doing that?
They are actually doing that. You know, there have been a number of cars that have been imported in recently because of that. And so, yeah, you'll start to see more and more of them. You know, again, it takes a hardy individual who's willing to tolerate those same, reliability issues. And then there's some guys that just are taking them to a Cars and Coffee and they're not really doing much with them too, so you've got both varieties that are bringing them in, some of who just want their collection to be complete with an iconic Lotus. And so I think that if you plan to drive the car, the good news is there are some, good vendors over in the UK that have, the components that you can order and get brought over. And if you're handy enough, I mean, the car is pretty simple. You can work on it yourself.
All right. So Blair, what would you choose?
Well, it's funny. I'm looking up right now. I'm bringing a trailer. There has only been one Elise one Elise S1 in the last, since 2023, September of 2023. There's only been one, and there were a few of them in 2023. I wonder why. There were like 4 of them, but it looks like they go for a nice one, 25 grand. I mean, the Super 7 is iconic. That's the one I want to drive in Scotland. That's the experience I want. But look at that S1 in that picture behind Shanu. I'm taking the Elise Series 1.
But see, this is the you're nailing it, brother. That's the crazy thing about these little Elises. Just looking at them makes you happy. And you're not, there's no ego vibe. It's just freedom. Isn't that what when I'm seeing both your guys' backdrop cars, that's how I feel. They're inspiring.
Yeah. It is. That's it. That you just nailed it. There's just fun cars. There's no pretense. It's all about the driving experience. It's just about having fun. And that's what, that's what I love about this hobby, is that there are these cars that are there that you can just have fun. And just like the Miata that's in your backdrop, it's like, what a fun car to drive.
Tim, before we get your answer, which we think we know what is coming, are the door sills as wide on this car as they are in an S2? Because man, it's hard for me to get into an S2.
Blair, it's going to keep you nimble, brother. You gotta, listen, man, we got to get you into some yoga or something. All right. We got to work on this,
brother. Go hit the fat shot up. You got GLPs 3s. That'll straighten you right up, son.
Okay. I'm buying an Elise too, or an S2.
Yeah. The sills are wider on a Series 1 car. It is the egress is certainly harder, but Blair, it's going to keep you young, brother. Come on.
You got to step on the seat. But Blair, look at the ones that are on. If you go to classics.com, finding one that's left-hand drive that's stateside, those are like hen's teeth rare. And the ones on bat, because I look, are almost always right-hand drive, which I don't want to have to learn. I'm just, I'm too resolute.
Unless you're in a Mitsubishi Bravo, then it's worth it, to rearrange your brain. But
because you're driving at 5 miles an hour, so it's fine,
Okay, so what would you choose, Blair? What would you choose?
S1 all day for me.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I mean, I'm showing my 54 Triumph TR2, which the guy I bought it from made it essentially looking exactly like a Le Mans car from the 50s and just did a masterful job restoring it. So I've got my old ass car itch scratched with that thing. So I definitely go with the S2. Of course, it's funny to say that now. The S2 is pretty old too.
Yeah.
But I would go with the S1. Sorry. That's definitely would be my choice.
Yeah. Truly though, if we were in Scotland and we could rent either one of those things, I would take the Super 7 for a few days.
Oh, for sure. Definitely for sure. I mean,
bring your raincoat.
All right. So guys, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Here are my two: 340R versus S260. And this is the 340R. Oh, Blair's already laughing at me. All right. Okay. There's the 340R. That is based on the S1.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen.
S2. Yeah, both.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. I personally, I love these cars. if, stars align, I'm definitely going to get one, and I'll probably only look at it, but I mean, it's so cool. That car, if you guys don't know what a 340R is, imagine a Lotus Elite meets a McLaren Senna meets a Lego set. I don't know, Rector set.
Tim, you sent a video of this car. I mean, I can only imagine it is an absolute riot to drive.
Well, I'm going to guess Mr. Mapleton's driven one. Yes.
I have. That car is great. It came out, what, 26 years ago.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it was, again, one of these kind of pet projects within the company. And the front of the car actually also kind of gives you a hint of what the Series 2 car was going to end up looking like. And so, yeah, it's a step-in car. There's no doors. You got to step over the sill, over the side of the car to get in and drop yourself in. A lot of fun. You can see that side panel is kind of clear, so you can kind of see through it.
Cool.
So those are some things that a lot of other brands, started to incorporate into their own cars, and that naked rear where
Like that
the
one.
exhaust is all exposed. Yeah, so there's an Ariel Atom 4, but that has always been very, very open car, in that manner.
Well, these aren't my two choices, but out of curiosity, Shanu and Blair, if you had to choose between that and Ariel Atom 4, and I didn't like particularly the Ariel Atom 3, being honest with you, it was actually a little bit too much the road for me. A 4 supposedly makes it so that it's not so oversteery, twitchy. But if you had to choose between Ariel Atom 4 and the Lotus 340R, and this isn't my this or that, but I'm just out of curiosity, what would you guys choose?
I'm taking the 340R because it's I was going to put that car up as one of my choices, but I thought it was too obscure. The 340R all day long.
What about you, Blair?
I would say if it comes with a mechanic, I would take the Lotus. If I actually have to live with the thing for a couple of years, whatever, I would take the Ariel and track the crap out of it.
They're not that great at track cars. When you go to track events, you don't see a lot of Ariels, which is kind of odd.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
It's
so
I think that Lotus is definitely cool.
Mr. Suspension Expert's about to set it straight. Go ahead.
No, listen, I mean, guys, I bought my first Atom, which was an Atom 2 in 2007. Okay. Then I got an Atom 3 in 2010. And then I have a spec race Atom that we wheel to wheel raced. We ran the West Coast Winter Series for Ariel. And so I got a lot of seat time on the track and on the road with Ariels of all varieties. And so, look, the Atom is like a classic 911. It understeers turning into a corner, it oversteers exiting, and you're constantly dancing with the car. You're constantly working the steering wheel. If you don't like that experience, you're not going to like the Atom because it feels loose. It's nervous. We've had more than one customer, the car scared them and they sold it, and so it's not as predictable. It's rear biased. Yeah, I mean, frankly, and especially the earlier cars, some of the suspension stuff was just off base.
So the four has a longer wheelbase, right? Isn't that the main difference? They tried to move. Go ahead.
No, I think the real difference is they actually spent some time trying to engineer the pushrod bell crank suspension, which I think it was more of a design exercise in the past. And here they actually spent some effort dialing it in. I can go talk ad nauseum about some of the issues there, but the 4, which we delivered a 4 last year, it's a much improved car, significantly improved car.
And those cars are 100, right around there,
right around 100 grand.
And what's the wait time on one?
Well, that's where the problem is.
3 years, right?
Like that one took 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
Another one that we had on order took over 4 years.
Seriously, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But that's what an amazing business. How many cars are they making per year?
No, it's not an amazing business. They're not making any money, taking 4 years to deliver a car. That's just, that's fundamentally flawed. Yeah.
There was an Atom 3RS that just sold a couple of days ago on Ring a Trailer, and the drive video of that thing, the turbo noises that thing made, with sequential shifter, I thought, now that's an experience I would love to have.
Well,
just not sure I want to own one.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I'm understanding. Well, so my two
Tim, that car is in my garage in our shop right now.
That very car?
That very car. Is that the one that's sold on Bring a Trailer?
Yeah. So this is an S260 that someone put, I think, a really fetching livery on. The car is originally black, I guess a matte black.
I like it.
But this is an S260.
Final edition. It was a final edition, was matte black. Yep.
I'm not going to even pretend to be an expert at this, Shanu. I'm tossing the ball to you. So tell us about this car.
Okay, so it was the last of the Exiges that we received in the US. Powertrain, but intercooled, supercharged to about 255 horsepower. It has the updated aero, so the front fascia, front clam, has different styling from the previous Exige. The rear, wing is more functional than the previous wings. Yeah, just a great final, goodbye from Lotus to the US market. Really good car. But yeah, that car is in our shop at the moment. The gentleman who bought it, he sent it to us and we're going through it. And for the most part, it was pretty good. There's a few things we're changing to the car for him, some reliability related things, but then also a couple of performance enhancement things as well.
All right. So if you have to choose between this 340R or this, the S260, Shanu, what are you going to choose?
340R all day long.
Okay. Blair?
Yeah. Is that a supercharged
Yep.
2ZZ in the 260?
It is.
Yeah, I'd take the Exige, and I do not think that livery is fetching at all. I think it's awesome.
Well, fetching is good.
Oh, I was trying
to keep it British. They say fetching when someone is. There's no reason you should know that. I'm just a freaking nerd. All right, don't worry. Don't be embarrassed.
A derogatory term, but I'm wrong. Anyways, I take the Exige. A little more of a car. I would track the crap out of it. I think they look awesome. I want that. I want the intake right above my head. I would love that experience.
I definitely would take the 340R. And now, so here's the ultimate this or that. All three cars are up. You could only choose one. I just thought of this twist. It's pretty good though. You can only choose one to take home. You have the beautiful, gorgeous Elan behind Blair. You have the S1 Elise behind Shanu, and you have the 340R behind me. So, Mr. Mapleton, which one are you taking home? And you can only choose one. You can't flip it. You have to keep it for 10 years. It could be your only sports car.
Look, man, the 340R, because that's my style of like crazy. So absolutely.
That car sold on Bring a Trailer for guess how much?
50 grand.
This is crazy, right? 70 grand, but still,
sure.
That looks like a really stupid, crazy, fun, amazing way to spend 70 grand. All right, Blair, if you have to choose between one of the three, what are you going to choose?
Well, if it's good enough for Gordon Murray, it's good enough for me. And I take the Lotus Elan and would just hoon that thing up the mountains in Utah. And the 340R is cool, just not, I want a little more beautiful car, ideally.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not a beautiful car. No.
That's good logic. Nope, that's not a beautiful car. It is not. And I would choose the 340R. All right. Do you guys have time for a listener question? Or do you guys want to hold off on this one for next week? It's fine with me.
Let's do
it.
Right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we've got actually a lot of listener questions, and most of which I just answer myself. If you guys have any listener questions when you're in the newsletter at fullthrottletalk.com, if you hit subscribe, that goes to me. And so I'll just oftentimes, if it's a simple question, I'll just answer it. Otherwise, I'm going to save some of them and I put them in our spreadsheet and we use them for the show. All right, I'm going to go to the first one because it's the easiest one. Cars we regret selling that we would buy again. Shanu, you get to go first. You have to just choose one for the sake of time.
Yeah, a 74 Alfa Romeo GTV.
Damn, didn't you have to think about it? Wow.
My second daughter still gives me a hard time about selling old little Alfie, as she referred to
Alfa Romeo GTV. So that was a Spider, or you have to help me out here. It wasn't a Julia.
Yeah, it's a coupe.
Oh,
yeah, it was gorgeous cars.
It was a Julia though, right?
No, I don't think it's the Julia.
Is that like a GTV 1600 or a two?
No, previous to all that. So it's basically, if you here, let me bring up a picture for you guys, because you'll when you see it, you'll recognize it. It's the classic GTV cars, and in fact, here's one that was very similar to the one.
By the way, there's the 67S after we restored it. That I was telling you guys about earlier. There it is.
Oh yeah, nice.
All right. So
while he's pulling that up,
thank you.
Maybe I'll say I am so the Porsche Colt is getting crazy, and I'm like, maybe I should have just hung on to my 3.2. It was like so sorted. But the car I will say is my 2002 E46 M3 in Phoenix yellow. It had like 20,000 miles on it, and I should have. I was babying it too much, so I wanted to sell the car. If I could go back in time, I would just keep that car and just beat on it, use it like crazy, and just make it what I wanted.
Okay, so the Shinu is showing as alpha. Is that the actual one?
No, that's not the actual one, but that's, a 74 GTV. So yeah, it's one of the classics. They sell for a lot of money. There's this Restomod company in the UK, Alphaholics,
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah,
doing
incredible.
crazy version of that. Yeah.
So I'm almost sure, and alpha experts out there, feel free to make fun of me for not knowing more about this. By the way, we do have an alpha. It's actually Julia's car, her Julia Quadrifoglio right there.
It's great color, by the
Yeah.
way, Tim. I love that.
Isn't it awesome? Oh,
Yeah.
it's such a sweet car. If you guys ever have an opportunity to drive one of those, you absolutely want to drive one of those. So much fun.
I've driven a 2-liter sport, but never the Quadrifoglio.
No, drive the Quadrifoglio because it's everything that Jeremy Clarkson says it is in terms of the actual experience driving it. So just absolute fun. I don't remember what we were talking about.
Well,
Okay,
what's the car you regret? Oh, well,
Well-
Alphaholics, which is the
Oh,
singer
right.
of Alfa Romeo, and unbelievable.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've written some articles for Full Throttle Talk about all these resto mods. They either I was really curious what they do in resale, and there's enough data points out there. What do you guys think? Where do you guys think? Oh, do you think these resto rods, nice Alphas and Porsches and all the rest of it? What do you think those things do on resale? Do you think they hold their value, lose value, or increase in value? What's your perception?
That they go up in value, or at least hold it for sure.
Is that your perception?
That's my perception. Yeah. That's my perception.
I think so too, because of what modern cars are. It's like, well, if you want something that awesome, you can wait in line for 5 years, or you just got to buy somebody's and pay up for it.
Most of them lose value, and I was really surprised by that. And the reason that they lose value is because people want to build their own. And the more personalized some of these resto rods have become, and Singer, I'm talking about you, the harder it is to find somebody who wants what your perception of great taste is in the car they want to buy. And so they'll just get in line and buy it. So someone willing to pay $1 million for a Resto Rod 964 is going to want it exactly the way that they want it. There will be a business opportunity for someone in the future to take some of these Resto Rotted cars. Pagani is doing this. You can send your Pagani over to, and Porsche is starting to do this with the 918. You can send your car to Pagani, and Pagani will completely strip the chassis down and remake it exactly the way you want it. Did you guys know that they're doing that?
Yeah, they should. I mean, that's
amazing.
something that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
So
and
what
Tim,
do you
by the
regret
way,
selling?
yeah, you've coined a new term that I'd never heard: resto rod. Most of us say resto mod, but I actually kind of like the resto rod. That's great. I'd never heard that one before.
I would have gotten it right, but I'm out of coffee. So, and my lovely coffee assistant just went to pick up the kid, so I don't have anybody to keep me completely infused. All right, so I have many that I regret selling, and there's one of them. That's a 2000. Yeah, it's a Pista, and so we sold that. And then I've got a whole host of cars I regret selling. That one I definitely miss.
Why? What do you miss about that car versus other Ferraris you've had?
Well, I mean, there's personal attachment to it because Ferrari abused us before we could get one. So there's that. Okay. And then Julie and I got to pick to select all the whatnots on. So had we not been moving to Puerto Rico, I'd still have that car. Because when you bring a car like that's not a hybrid or a plug-in into Puerto Rico, they'll charge you 30% of what they think it's worth. You have to pay an excise tax on top of whatever it costs. And so that's the reason when you see a Pista in Puerto Rico, which there are some, they're extraordinarily expensive. But I miss that car. That car felt special. The special Ferraris feel really, really, really special. I'm not sure if the new ones are going to feel that way, but the old ones definitely did.
I was doing a track day with the Porsche Club once, and there was a guy who brought his Pista out there, and that was so cool. And I can't imagine many Pista owners are doing that with their cars, but man, what a machine.
I had a Scuderia that I regret selling. I had a 997 GT3 RS that I regret selling, but I not really regret selling to the extent that are the Ferraris. But yeah, a long list. I regret selling my '05 Elise. Honestly, I wish I still had that orange car. That was a great car. I mean, I don't want to start crying, so I'm not going to go down my road of
No,
regrets.
we want to see you cry. Let's keep going. Let's really dig into this.
You know, Julie, we are doing some hiring in one of our businesses, and one of the questions that I ask is, can you tell me a mistake you made and what did you learn from it, right? And so if the person, when answering the question, can't remember a mistake that they made, you pretty much don't want to hire that person. And the person immediately pops up with a list of mistakes that they made that's way too long. You don't want to hire that person. You want to hire the person you want to hire the person that's contemplative, and then they come up with something really thoughtful and tell you what they learned from it, which is like 1 out of 100 people that actually think like that. But when Julie asked me she asked me that very question. I said, well, I regret selling like 20 cars. And she goes, oh, really? What cars? And I just knew exactly what they were. And she didn't say anything. So anyway, yes. All right. So I'll go on to a next. Did we go? Oh, I think we asked everyone, didn't we? Cars you regret selling?
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Okay.
did.
All right. So this one's a long one. And now that okay, this is someone, I'll just summarize this. Someone who's secured an allocation for a new GT3 Touring. I'm considering other options due to significant increases in cost due to price hikes, tariffs, walking the fine line between I can or should I, because while financially I can comfortably afford it, I'm still struggling to rack my head around purchasing I think he meant a new car for $300,000 that was once in the low 200s. He goes on to say, this would be a fourth vehicle in my household. I'm not a daily driver or anything I could track. Serves the whole purposes of cruising with my family, back road trips and road trips. And he kind of goes into some more detail, but I find myself going back and forth on the question of, should I be considering buying, I'm summarizing here, the Touring versus, say, for example, a 911T. And that's the essence of his question. So
The other thing he said about the T, which is why I don't love the idea. He said, I can buy a T for 180 and dump a bunch of money into modifying it, making it faster, and still be 100 grand ahead. And that was, so, with that in mind, maybe I'll start and just
go for it.
Say, well, first of all, I mean, it sounds like he can afford the GT3 Touring, but he's having a hard time wrapping his mind around having that much money tied up in that car. And it's a fourth car. I would say buy neither of these things. Don't forget the hype with the Touring right now. Incredible car. I love those. I think they're the best modern sports car on sale because you can get a manual with it. Again, I would take a winged car, but nonetheless. And I kind of hate the idea of buying a T and trying to make it faster and more performant. So I would say do neither of those things. I don't know what your other three are. I would, for a fourth car, I'd go buy a 987 Boxer Spider. I would go buy a 356. I would go buy a Lotus Elan. That's not going to be popular with the Porsche. So I say do neither. It sounds like he doesn't love either of those options. So just go buy an older Porsche of some kind and make it fun.
What you said at the top of really, I think if no one wants to say out loud, but you did say it, and I agree with you, is there is a price point. There is a point where cars are getting to where they're just too valuable to drive. When you have to start running it through the filters of miles and condition and all these other things, when buying it automatically puts you into a mindset of losing money, it really does suck the fun out of the game, I think. If you have to think like that. So what do you think, Shanu? What do you think he should do?
Look, he says he can afford it. If driving a manual gearbox is important to him, that engine is something special, and he can order exactly what he wants and he can enjoy it. He's going to feel some pain when he strokes that check, but the memories that he's going to, gain from owning that car, again, assuming he's actually going to take those back road trips and enjoy the car with his family, he can afford it. Do it, man. I mean, it's a cool, special car. No one's going to ever look at that car and say, this is lame. I mean, look, a 911T is okay. It's a turboed car. It doesn't sound, frankly, that great, in my opinion. And you're paying a lot of money to get yourself into a 911. I would actually argue that that's less of a value because of those reasons. Getting a naturally aspirated manual gearbox 911 that people still covet and look up to and say is cool. He can have a wonderful time. I say go for it, man. Stroke the check. Don't look back. You're going to have a great time with that car.
If he has to choose the two of them and he can't go with neither of the above, I agree with Shanu. Yeah, just spend the money and get the GT3, not the modified T.
Okay,
So
Yeah, he's
I've had one. I had a 992 Touring when they first came out. A friend of mine, you guys remember the white collection? That guy that had all those white Porsches. All right, so
Yeah.
I've known him forever, and he was a Porsche VIP. So he would sell me his allocations. That's how I got my Spider, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah, for sometimes he'd give them to me, but sometimes he'd sell them to me. He
and you didn't like that car.
I didn't like it at all. Honestly, I didn't like the nine, and I'll tell you why. I'm answering this guy's question directly. He specifically says back road, family use, all the rest of it, awful car for that. The noise, and I'm not talking about the engine noise. The if you don't get the back seats in one of those cars, the noise that comes from those tires, and I know you're going to say it had the wrong tires on it, and maybe it did, but the noise that it dominates the whole experience. So if you're driving that car and you're thinking it's not a GT car. It's not a Grand Touring car. That is a GT3 with no wing. Do not fool yourself, okay? That is not a car that's going to be comfortable going on a long trip on. And furthermore, I'll say is that the 992 with the rear steer and all that noise is a vastly, and I'm going to make people mad, but it's my own opinion and my own experience, inferior to the 991.2 Touring. So answering your question, I wouldn't get the two. Go ahead. Sorry.
Would you rather have a modified T, or you're also going for plan C or option C? None of the above.
I personally think the 911T is awesome. And I think if you can get one that's a little bit, a couple baselines above a stripper, that's a great car. But I'll tell you what I would do personally, and you guys were focusing on the manual thing. Did he actually say he only wants a manual? Because you guys were both cluing in on that. I don't think he did.
I mean, why would he choose that car otherwise?
Well, the reason I didn't, okay, so behind me is what I would choose. I would go for, okay, so by the way, the 992 Tourings are selling for, I don't even know what those things are selling for now, 300 grand. I think he's right, okay? I would get that, not the Speedster, because those things are now going for huge money. I have both of those cars. I would get the 718 Spider RS all day. That car, for me, is a brilliant freaking car. It has the same motor in it. I know it's not a manual. I adore that thing. I mentioned it earlier. And then probably what I would get if I were to maybe talk him into getting two cars, because after all, if you have four, you might as well get five, is maybe that 992 Touring. Now it'd boost his price range up, or a used 991 T, or not. Yeah, that's
991.2 T.
There you go. Those would be probably my choices.
And you can get one of those for 115 grand. And
there you go.
I will say, Tim, the first time I drove a 992.1 GT3 Touring, I was a little underwhelmed. And
why?
But it wasn't so much. I didn't notice the noise as much, but I like road noise, obnoxious noise you don't want to hear kind of noise. What bothered me is I felt like everything felt so light. This is going to sound so blasphemous. The clutch, the steering, the shifter. I got shades of my Golf GTI. Like, I want more mechanical. I want more visceral. And so the other thing, I think, for a fourth car, we don't know what your cars 1, 2, and 3 are. And maybe they're not all sports cars. Maybe it's a couple of dailies and whatever. So I think GT3s, modern GT3s, are not good fourth toys. I think they're good, like, alternative to your daily that you can use all the time, because they're getting fairly refined with a killer motor in the back of it. The last thing I'll say is I drove the 992.2 GT3. I think they improved the shifter. It feels better. I heard it came from the ST.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so I really like both those cars, but I was a little underwhelmed, and the refinement I felt in that Touring, I was like, well, of course this is a rad car, but for 300 grand, my goodness, you can do a lot of stuff with that.
What would you do? One car for 300 grand. We'll start wrapping up the show. What would you do? I agree with everything you just said, by the way. If it is a fourth car, it's not special enough.
If it was my fourth car, I would go 997 GT3 RS, adopt one. 300 grand buys you one of those all day long. But it sounds like he wants to get the family in it. He wants to do some touring in it, maybe, but I would not do 992 at all if it was a special car that I just wanted to preserve value on. No way.
Yep. So one $300,000 car, what are you going to go with, Shanu?
So I haven't driven the 992 Touring, but I did drive the 991 Touring, which I liked. And I think you can get one for about 300 grand. So that's where my money would go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There-
Yeah. So that's where my
yeah.
money would go.
I think actually those cars are now holding pretty strong around 250, 260. You know what
Okay.
though? When the hell did that not become an enormous amount of money? I mean, did something happen?
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Holy
Well,
crap. It doesn't even make
and
sense.
this is what I will always say. It's one of my big gripes. And I like air-cooled cars that don't have wings. And I like the shape of a 911. But if you're going to buy a GT3, get downforce and take it to the track. Put a wing on it and go track it.
100%. I agree.
I'm not a big touring guy in GT3.
Well, but the touring isn't a touring car. That's the thing.
No. So
it's
get a
marketing.
wing on it and go beat the crap out of it.
Yeah.
It's all relative, fellas. When you're used to like small, lightweight, cars, the GT3s
It is a touring
are
car,
touring
yeah.
cars. Okay.
That's true. Shanu is staying on brand. So listen, guys, that was Full Throttle Talk for this week. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for watching us. If you have any show ideas, please make sure you send them to us. You can just, when you subscribe to the newsletter, make sure you're subscribing to the newsletter. Hit reply. We get your show ideas and your questions, or you can message us over on Instagram. Guys, thank you for a fun time. I really appreciate it. What do you guys want to talk about next week? Anything top of mind?
Cars.
Cars, of course. It's got to be cars, right?
Maybe some motorcycles. Yeah, I want to hear more about that thing.
All right. I'll send you guys, I'll post some ideas in WhatsApp and you guys tell me what you think and we'll vote. Cool?
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Have a great
All right,
week.
guys.
See you guys. Bye.